So in this cloister we can find some curious kind of panels that were produced in a very specific period of the history of Portugal, in 1640, in the restoration of the Portuguese independence against Spain. We are talking about the satiric panels. This kind of satiric panels with the figures, a monkey in human scenes, were used in Portugal not only as simple fables like they were in Europe, but they were usually mainly by the nobles, by the nobility, as a vehicle to affirm political messages. So this kind of creativity and humor will be also another characteristic of the Portuguese production of this period.
After the troubled times of the period of the Restoration, there was a healthier period. And so in this time, commissions for the Netherlands were made of large panels in blue and white that remind the porcelain of China. And so these large panels, like we see here, were made specifically for Portugal, because in the Netherlands they prefer small azulejos. The wealth of the period and the pressure of the Netherlands production made the workshops in Lisbon to try to enlist academic painters. And these painters signed their works, and that's why this period is called the Masters period. The expertise of these painters allowed to create large sets that were put in churches and palaces, and thus create the new kind of azulejo of the 18th century, the narrative azulejo.
Here we have a large figurative panel typical of the 18th century. We also find this beautiful balance of the gilded wood with the blue tiles. This chapel is known as St. Antonius Chapel because here we have paintings depicting the life and the miracles of St. Antonio. A masterpiece of this ancient convent is the crypt of Madre de Deus. It's a remarkable work of clay sculptures depicting the birth of Christ. We can see scenes from the Bible, but also from Lisbon everyday life. You can see this group with women frying fish, men playing the guitar, dancing with castanets, and also this taste, this enthusiasm for everything from overseas, as the turkey, the elephant, the man wearing a feather crown, as Indians from Brazil. This is the upper choir, also known as the treasurer's room. The treasure here is the collection of relics of saints, a unique collection that reflects the importance of this convent. The women that lived here belonged to the best families of the kingdom, and they had a very high cultural level. Their memories, their experiences, their traditions are part of the heritage of this house, the so-called intangible heritage. Here, they used to gather for daily prayers and to attend Mass. Here there was a railing in gilded carving. The nuns could see the church without being seen, but they were heard. They used to sing during Mass, and the beauty of their voices singing was famous in Lisbon.
Directly from the high choir, we come to the nave of the Church of Madre de Deus, which is this magnificent example that we see over here, built in the 16th century, but with profound remodeling work in the 18th century, being today a pearl of the Portuguese Baroque. In here, we can admire tiles still placed in the original places and related with other elements. We have here one of the best Portuguese expressions in the Portuguese art, the conjunction of tile in white and blue with gilded wood. We have this very interesting Portuguese idiomatic expression when we want to express the idea of perfection, we say it was gold on blue, relating to the uniqueness of the combination between tile and gilded wood.
Another unique production of the 18th century are the welcome figure, usually males, very rarely ladies. They were put at the entrance of palaces and churches to tell people where to go. And because we are so polite, we'll follow the lead. Another unique production of the 18th century are the azulejos for the University of Coimbra, the oldest in Portugal. As we can see, we have here mathematical problems and part of a world map. In the mid-18th century, a massive earthquake destroyed Lisbon. It was necessary to rebuild quickly the city, and so these azulejos, produced at the time, were named after the Marquis de Pombal, the Prime Minister of the time. This was a very hygienical product. By the end of the 18th century, we see the rise of a new class, the bourgeoisie. Azulejos were used as propaganda, and this set, called the Hatmaker Story, we see the true life of a young man that started his life as a shepherd, and by the end, he was a very successful entrepreneur, a hat maker.
The 19th century. In this period, it is fashionable the use of patterns to decorate facades of buildings belonging to richer families. In this period begins industrial production and widespread use of tiles. The use of azulejos to decorate facades create a new urban looking. In cities across the country have more light, color and shine. These two patterns were created for metro stations. This one is a clear reference to our Islamic heritage, and this one to the Baroque period. Look at the head of the angel, so Baroque, and the blue on white, remembering Chinese porcelain. This panel is a small detail of a large wall, a wall of about 700 meters in Lisbon. This panel was used to decorate a facade in Barcelos, up in the north. It's a dynamic golden panel, reminding us of the ancient dialogue of golden materials and ceramics. This one is amazing by the wide range of whites. This diversity reminds us of traditional Portuguese ceramics contaminated by other oxides, so whites acquire a variety of other tones. We have here a flower vase sided by birds and exotic animals. This is a very common subject in 17th century patterns, but this is not a copy. This is a work of art full of sense of humor. The 20th century is a century of authors, in the sense that each artist finds a new way to express their individual talent. Looking at the work of young artists, we have good reasons to be confident about the future. Azulejo making provides a sea of opportunities for artists to express their individual talent.
Our tour is ending with a jewel, not only of the museum, but of Portugal heritage. This panel that represents 14 meters of coasts, and with these 22 meters, it's an image of a city that was lost with the earthquake of the 18th century. In this panorama, Lisbon is preserved in ceramics, but the city can be seen as a city of ceramics, with these facades with azulejos. A different shining and a different atmosphere appeared not only in Lisbon, but in all Portuguese cities. If you want to experience this, come to Portugal, visit our cities, see Lisbon, and don't forget, come to the National Museum of Azulejo, where you'll always be welcomed.